Coming to Kickstarter this June, John Haynes at Death's Door, the man who rules the world, takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the standard and variant editions of John Haynes at Death's Door and lots of other great stretch goal rewards on Kickstarter this June. One of my viewers wanted to know if candidate Marcel Dixon made mistakes in his campaign to unseat veteran Congressman Jim Clyburn. Now, recently there was a primary for the seat of Jim Clyburn, and unfortunately Marcel Dixon did not win in his campaign to unseat the longtime veteran Jim Clyburn from his congressional seat and be the Democratic representative for Congress in 2022. Now, many are saying that Marcel Dixon made mistakes, but I believe that Marcel Dixon understands that this is a chess game and not checkers, and in this chess game he has to prepare to run a marathon, not a sprint, in his efforts to take the district from veteran politician Jim Clyburn. Now, Jim Clyburn is an incredibly influential black congressman, and many credit him with being the one who got Joe Biden elected to the presidency. However, your Jim Clyburn is 82 years old, and your Jim Clyburn, as I see it, has made a major mistake that may lead to somebody winding up eventually taking his seat. Now, your Jim Clyburn, like Charlie Rangel, who is here in New York, made the mistake of not really looking to pick a successor, and this is something that many black politicians who are part of the silent generation and the baby boomers make as a critical mistake. Now, many of your baby boomer and silent generation politicians in the black community, they have what I call an I got mine, screw you mentality, and they believe that once they get a spot, it's all about them, and they never really think about the future. This is the critical mistake that your Charlie Rangel made here in New York after serving for over 40 years as the congressman over a Manhattan district. Now, your Charlie Rangel was over this Manhattan district for over 40 years, and unfortunately, he did not pick a black successor to take his congressional seat. And because he did not pick a black congressional representative to replace him, what happened was a Dominican state senator, Adriano Espiat, wound up taking the district, and once he wound up taking the district, what happened was the tangibles wound up going to the Hispanic community instead of going to the black community. And that's what happens when you go out here and you have these black politicians who have this I got mine, screw you mentality. Once they get theirs, they don't care about the communities that they serve anymore, and they don't care to prepare a successor to take their place so that those communities can continue receiving tangibles for the votes that are given to them. So because your Charlie Rangel did not think about his legacy, what happened was this Dominican Adriano Espiat wound up taking the district, and ever since 2017, the district has been in the hands of the Dominican representative, and now he's only thinking about taking care of the Hispanic community and providing tangibles to members of the Hispanic community primarily. That is what happens when you have your black leaders who are all about getting theirs and taking care of only themselves, that it leaves a void where others come in and take over. And that's where your Marcel Dixon is in a very good place, because at 82 years old, your Jim Clyburn ain't got much longer to be running that district, because at 82 years old, your Jim Clyburn is on his way out, whether he likes it or not. And since he has not prepared another individual to take his place as the representative of that district, this is where Marcel Dixon has a major advantage, because What your Marcel Dixon needs to be doing right now is continuing to get his message out there, continuing to talk about bringing tangibles to black people, and continue talking about bringing tangibles to black people in ways that Jim Clyburn will not do, because the more he starts talking about his message, the more people will get to know him. And when they get to know him, eventually they're going to realize that Jim Clyburn is getting old and is on his way out, and they need a new representative to represent them. And with the younger voters, they need somebody who is going to represent their interest and not the interest of people who have one foot in the grave, like the silent generation and the baby boomers, and start focusing on the issues of your Gen X, your Gen Y, your Gen Z, your Millennials, and Generation Alpha. This is where 37-year-old Marcel Dixon has the advantage. He's a young man, and as a young man, he can start talking about how out of touch many of these politicians are, and how he's going to bring a new direction to South Carolina. This is where Marcel Dixon has the advantage as related to things, because in the long game, your Jim Clyburn is going to be in the grave in a couple of years, and somebody's got to take over this district, and that's what your Marcel Dixon really needs to focus on. Now, the viewer wants to say that Marcel Dixon made mistakes like not using his real name, but the whole thing is his name is Greg Marcel Dixon, and that really doesn't mean much in anything. What is important for Marcel Dixon is he has to have the perseverance to continue, and he has to continue pushing, because your Adriano Espaillat, he lost in his first campaign to Unseat Charlie Rangel, and then when Charlie Rangel wound up retiring, Adriano Espaillat wound up eventually taking the seat, and when he wound up taking the seat, he then wound up getting the position of power in Congress to bring tangibles to the Hispanic community and not the black community. So your Adriano Espaillat, he played the long game, and that's what your Marcel Dixon has to do in this situation. He has to have the perseverance to continue pushing in his campaign, and he has to have the resolve to continue running another campaign in 2024, because again, I don't think your Jim Clyburn is going to run for a 17th term, because at 82 years old, he's got, again, one foot in the grave and another foot on a banana peel, and the days of him and his fish fries are soon to be over. And what your Marcel Dixon needs to focus on is his future politically, because he has to play the same long game that Adriano Espaillat played, because if he plays that game, he can eventually take that seat, and that's what this is all about. I mean, politics is a long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and I believe that your Marcel Dixon understood this with this run. This first run was going to be a failure, because most of these people in these blue districts, they're going to vote straight down that blue ticket for the person that they know. But this campaign is about letting you get to know the constituents, and the constituents get to know you and start to form your relationship, because the longer you take to form your relationship, the better it will be when you run the next time. So this is a marathon, not a sprint, and your Marcel Dixon has to understand it's going to take time to unseat a veteran politician like Jim Clyburn, but it can be done, because Charlie Rangel wound up stepping away from his seat, and it changed the entire district's whole community's influence from black to Hispanic. And the same thing can happen here, where many of the black empowerment people in the community can take over these seats if they go out here and know how to play the chess game and checkmate the boomer bootlicks and the old heads who are basically had these seats for 6 to 7 decades, like Jim Clyburn. And when you do that, you can wind up taking that seat and then wind up taking the district in a completely different direction. So the whole thing with your Marcel Dixon is he can't get discouraged because, again, this is just one minor setback, and it's a very minor setback when you consider the age of Jim Clyburn, and when you consider that the amount of time that Jim Clyburn has on this earth isn't that much longer. So this is just a minor setback, and Marcel Dixon has to continue hanging in there, and he has to continue hanging in there because the only way for him to win is to continue running. And the whole thing is he's got a lot to gain if he continues to run another campaign. Now, my new comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, will be on Kickstarter tomorrow, and if you guys could put in a pledge, it would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to see me make more videos like this that have been requested by a viewer, you can send me a Cash App by clicking the link in the description box, and if I know something about that subject, I will make that video for you. And if you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, you can pick up those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. Sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.